I'm looking at an interview, a great interview you did with Ipsita Argawal in Medium, in which you list some of the things we would not know that the government would like to have kept secret in the last 10 years. And, you know, the torture of prisoners at Abu Ghraib, I know you've been very active in prosecuting that. Secret prisons that the CIA has set up. The case for war in Iraq based on basically misinformation. The drone program, and of course, Snowden's revelations about the NSA's violation of law and the Constitution. So it's clear. What are the checks and balances, though? You know, I remember talking about the anti-terrorism fight, and I can't remember. I wish I could give him credit. Somebody told me, you know, it all really began when George Bush in 2001 said, this won't happen again. We can't let this happen again. And the National Security Agency and other intelligence agencies took this as carte blanche. Well, if you don't want it to happen again, what you need to do is mass surveillance. Yes, we can handle. We can attempt to keep this from ever happening again, but it's going to require this kind of surveillance that we've embarked upon. What is the current state of checks and balances? Do we have good systems for getting this information out? Things that concern me, the secret courts, for instance, what we're learning about the Yahoo surveillance. Yahoo had fought the NSLs and the National Security Letters and the secret court rulings for a long time, lost and lost and lost, and finally apparently just threw up their hands and said, fine, we'll surveil our entire user base for you. Are there good checks and balances? Are they being used? Where do we stand?
There are supposed to be, and there are some that are, in our system of government. The irony is that the last great surveillance debate that we had in this country was domestic surveillance debate was back in the 1970s. And that's when the Church Committee, a bipartisan congressional committee, published the results of a years-long investigation into J. Edgar Hoover, who ran the FBI for 50 years, the NSA, the CIA, the Department of Defense. All of them had been maintaining dossiers on millions of Americans who had no connection to communism or terrorism or anything else. It was a surveillance system run amok. And the structural reforms that came out of that debate were, number one, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. Before that, there were no rules at all governing intelligence surveillance as opposed to criminal surveillance. So this created this secret court that at the time was considered better than no court at all. And it also created the two committees in Congress, the intelligence committees in the House and in the Senate. 40 years later, in the debate that Snowden helped launch, we see that those reforms from the 70s are the culprits now. And I think that the lesson is that no structure is going to solve this problem for us. You don't get to hack the system and have it be fixed. And it's argument I have with technologists all the time who think that we can come up with a solution to the problem of oversight. There is no solution to the problem of oversight other than aggressive civil society organizations, independent journalists. I mean, think about not just since 9/11, but going back 40 years. What are the most important revelations that we've learned about the intelligence community and its behaviors? Which of those did we learn from court decisions or from congressional hearings, and which of those did we learn from journalists who pried the information out of the executive branch in some way? And the overwhelming majority of that information, of course, came from journalists. And I'm just afraid that we do need legal reforms, but there's never going to be a substitute for independent investigative journalists who know their stuff, who have their sources, and who are able to compete effectively with government over their monopoly over this information.